All right, guys. Welcome to the first A2O Podcast. We're going to be bringing you guys a podcast pretty regular. We're going to try to at least amongst the rest of our content. So we've got me, Turner, Clay, Jacob. We've got a couple of topics we're going to go over today, and let's get started. Got my Capri Sun, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Come on. We've been eating some lactation cookies, so we should be ready to rock and roll.
Don't tell them that.
Don't
We
tell
just
them.
lost all of our subscribers right there. No, I'm just kidding. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh gosh. All right. So, how do you guys find your number one hit list buck? That's what we're going to talk about today. So
You talking about like trail cameras or spotting
Whether
scopes or
you're-
like wind or?
we live the place that we're at. We have such a diverse amount of different kinds of terrain you could be in. Like, take me for instance. I can glass for deer. A lot of people though, you go 20 minutes south or north in certain places and you can't glass for deer.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're relying off trail cameras or you know, observation stand or something like that. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Or are you just taking your last year's trail camera pictures and last year's scouting, and that's how you're, you know, if you get that last picture of that buck and he's not been shot yet or something like that at the very end of the season, if you keep the trail cameras out that long, you know he's still alive unless something else gets him EHD or gets hit by a car or something like that, or something else gets him. He's still alive. That's how you're gonna go after him.
Take off.
Yeah, so you know, we have employ a few different methods. I think that everybody does. So hopefully, you know, best case scenario, we're watching a deer up to the summer that we saw as a 3-year-old the year before. Maybe we had a real strong 2-year-old that we thought might come on and do something the following year. Yeah, we'll look for those deer in the early spring, you know, midsummer. I'm just talking about myself here. We'll look for those deer, you know, in places that we might have seen them the year before, early season, and then later on as the summer progresses, we'll start thinking about putting the camera out, thinking about putting a mineral site out, bait sites here where we live, and then, you know, we do a lot of physical scouting where we'll go out and maybe watch a 40-acre bean field or something.
Yeah.
See where those deer are coming out, see where they're using it, and then maybe tailor our setup for opening weekend or that early part of the season based on that.
Yeah. So I've got a question for you that you said. Me and Clay just shot a video on putting some mineral sites out and stuff like that. But you and your brother Justin, when is the time that you guys make sure you get your mineral sites out? Say if it's for reconnaissance or something like that for deer. When is that time?
Well, we've gone back and forth over the years. We have put a lot of mineral sites out in the past. Last few years, you know, not so much. Kind of just transition towards getting pictures of those deer late in the summer, trying to apply the least amount of pressure as possible. Mostly because most areas we hunt are highly pressured anyway.
Yeah.
And you have guys that are going in the woods and conditioning those deer to human interaction from, I mean, even early as late May.
Yeah.
Around here, we've kind of really tried to stay away from that. I mean, one just for the pressure on the deer, and two, it gets expensive.
Oh yeah.
So there's many tools out there, many ways to know the deer that you have close enough to maybe get a shot at, especially in the early parts of the season, without really getting too involved in trying to attract them or trying to condition them to a certain attracting or area. And then later on, yeah, as time progresses, we'll you know, maybe a month out from the season, we'll we'll start trying to really get those deer pulled into a spot where we think we can get a shot. You know.
Yeah. I got you.
I'll kind of go both ways on that. Two different ways, I guess I should say. The way that I did it growing up, where I grew up hunting, we didn't have a lot of big ag fields. You couldn't see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was heavy timber hunting, rolling hills. So a lot of our observation was done the season before, as far as, okay, it's late December, this deer's still here, we're not going to kill him, but man, if he could make it till next year.
Yeah.
So you kind of had an idea around the turn of the year. I hope this deer makes it. I hope this deer makes it. You kind of got a hit list already started. And then just to keep going throughout the year, on an established farm with established mineral sites, I like to get that going early.
Yeah.
Maybe not run cameras, but at least freshen up those mineral sites early, just to give the deer somewhere consistent that they can constantly hit year after year, month after month, week after week. But I have to say, like, as far as one point in the year when I really start getting excited and start seeing the most potential, it's got to be the time of year that we're in right now. It seems like, to me, that magic number is the last magic week, I guess, or time is the last 2 or 3 weeks in July.
Yeah.
It's just like over the past couple weeks, between me and several of my buddies that I talk to all the time and my dad, there's been several deer show up that you're like, all right, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and I'm actually going to go pull chips later this week, and other people seeing deer has started making me get excited to go pull my chips. Just because you can see them in May when they very first start putting horns on, and in June, you don't know what they're going to be. But by this time, I mean, there's some deer now that are far enough along. You're like, all right, that's a shooter.
Yeah, you can tell if he's a shooter or not.
So for me, I guess really, I like for it to start in late November, December of the year before.
Yeah.
That's not always possible just because of pressure and.
Yeah, and if you change your location.
And if you've already tagged out, maybe you're not in the woods as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another thing too about using late season reconnaissance is those deer don't typically use the same areas.
Yeah.
You're much more likely to see a 4-year-old that used that area as a 3-year-old last summer, not necessarily last winter, because the food sources in the winter change their patterns so much, especially here. They'll migrate to where they can find a reliable food source.
Absolutely.
During that time of year. But it's interesting what you said about the established farms or farms that you've hunted for years and years that have established mineral sites, and that is one thing that has changed for us and a lot of people over the years is, we don't necessarily get to hunt the same farms year to year or for 10 years at a time. We especially with as many places that get leased, and we've been forced to lease some ground and gone through ground that we've leased and lost and all that. So it the effort to establish those mineral sites is a lot of times lost.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
When you're
Absolutely.
going through property like you do this day and age,
Well, and if you throw public ground in on that conversation, it totally changes again.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, established farms are fun because they're consistent. You can hang stands and kind of know that you're going to use those exact same stands year to year.
Oh yeah.
And I like hunting that way. But with all the new hunters brought on through the social media game and YouTube and just the availability of all the public ground and saddle hunting and the different ways to attack deer hunting now.
Oh yeah. Saddle hunt or die.
Yeah. No free shout outs, right?
Yeah.
You got to get creative at times. I mean, and I like hunting new property.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just me or I say just me, a small group of people that we're all in tune on the same page as far as how we want to approach it, how we want to learn it. Yeah. And that's fun. I think that's really fun.
Absolutely.
I killed the biggest deer I've ever killed doing that same deal.
Well, there's thrill in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you don't really know.
and it's fun when it works out.
Very.
Oh, yeah.
It's
very.
it's fun when you have an idea and things come together and a lot more than just deer hunting. But
Yeah.
you know, that's a really cool thing.
Well, and that's, it's rewarding. There's a lot of different ways to attack that discussion,
exactly
but
right. But so what I primarily do is, which I mean, I take some of the reconnaissance and whatnot I've had from the prior year, and some of the data that I've got, but I typically don't rely off that. I hang out a few trail cameras, and once I get one picture of a deer that I think might be a shooter or something, then I'm hanging trail cameras all over that one piece of property until I figure out exactly how he's moving. And I'm doing a lot of glassing. I've got most of the properties that I hunt, I can glass at, so I just pull up the truck, hop in the bed of the truck, and sit there and just watch. And typically, it works out pretty well because depending on where it's at, I'd like to go in and kill him on the first hunt. That way I don't have to worry about anything else. But anyways.
So when do you start putting out trail cams?
So typically I've got trail cameras out all year round.
Really?
There's a trail camera of mine at least out all year round. Never comes in.
Yeah.
And I'll usually rotate them out because they'll usually end up having ant's nest or something built inside of it or something like that. But I don't know the losses, I guess, I can justify it.
That's an interesting difference. We typically, and just now thinking about putting the trail camera out.
Yeah.
And
Well, it kind of gets into pressure, and that can be an entirely different episode. But
yeah, I guess it depends on what type of setup you're using.
Well, and what do you mean by pressure?
Well, just the less impact you have, the least amount of impact you have on a property, whether that's driving on it or going on it to check trail cameras or actually hunting on it or predator hunting on it or turkey hunting on it. I think as much of a sanctuary as you can keep a piece of property for deer hunting, especially, the better it is.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that luxury.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to do that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people's favorite deer hunting spots are also their favorite turkey hunting spots and their favorite trapping spots. But I think the proof's in the pudding if you can stay off of a piece of ground.
Oh yeah, but now see, like there's certain pieces of property that I've got that I don't even. This block of woods, which means I could draw down on onyx right now. Most of them are drawn out on onyx, and it's red. It's a great big block of red, and like that is do not go. I never go in that area. And now there's one exception. I'll go in there one time, and the reason I leave my trail cameras out all year round is because I'm addicted to shed hunting. Shed hunting is almost more addictive than actually going out and killing a deer for me. I love it. But anyways, I leave at least one camera out, and so that way I can figure out, hey, all right, they're pretty much they've all dropped. And once I know for sure that 90% of them in my area that they've dropped, that's the one time I make that exception. And I go in there, I'll shed hunt that area, and then I get out, and I don't go back in it until the next year.
Yeah.
And they're susceptible to pressure at different times of the year too. Late spring, early summer, you're not gonna hurt them too much. September, we can do some damage, especially after some other people get in the woods and they've seen it from multiple directions. Everybody knows they lose that velvet. And it changes.
It changes for sure.
Changes overnight.
Another good thing that I do use as well too that I take that back. I don't necessarily use it primarily, but I've used it in the past is just by word of mouth. The old farmers and stuff around my area will say, hey man, I've been watching a big one back here. Well, a lot of us don't have enough money to go out and have 25 cameras to have on every corner of each piece of property you have. So, Farmer Joe says, hey man, I've been watching this big buck coming out my beans every night or something like that. And
so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I can hunt the property back behind him, so I'm gonna go back there and I'm gonna start setting me up get some reconnaissance on that deer. Yeah. Figure out what he is.
What's real funny sometimes is when that big deer turns out to be a 2-year-old 8-pointer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's happened. It's
biggest deer I've seen.
Hey, everybody's definitions.
Yeah.
But hey, I will promise you this much for dang sure is that if somebody's really adamant, like, oh, we don't have any deer over here, I ain't seen any deer at all.
Oh, yeah.
that's probably the place you need to be trying to go to.
No doubt.
Get around that
Amen.
spot
Amen. Somebody's trying to get under your skin there.
for sure. But anyways, well, I think that pretty well sums up our how are you finding your hit list, Buck. I think that was pretty good right there. So
Inaugural episode right there.
inaugural episode
Coming
for
on.
sure. First podcast. Well, guys, that's gonna be a wrap. Be sure and go over to our Facebook page and Instagram, YouTube, like and subscribe to all that stuff, and catch us on the next one.